Welcome to Just Another Autism podcast. In this podcast, I, Eileen Lamb, take a deep dive into the personal journeys of people in the autism community, from autistic individuals navigating daily life to the caregivers, educators, and employers who support them. Each week, we shed light on the different ways autism shapes lives, offering first-person perspectives from every angle of the community. And today, I am pleased to be joined by two fearless mothers, Tonya and Victoria. Welcome, Tonya and Victoria. Before we start, I would love for you to introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us a little bit about your connection to autism. Tonya, you want to go first?
Hello, and thank you for the opportunity. My name is Tonya Haynes, and I am the parent of two children with autism. And so I have a 23-year-old son named Tyler, as well as a 12-year-old son named Timothy.
How about you, Victoria?
Hi, I'm Victoria Handy. I am an adult on the spectrum, level 1 mild, and I'm the proud parent of a daughter, level 2 moderate. And I'm also very appreciative to be here. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for joining me. So what has been the most rewarding part of being a mother for you?
So for me, it has definitely been watching my children grow, develop, and continually progress. Also nurturing their interests and their unique characteristics. That has indeed brought me great joy.
I can relate to that too. All the little wins are very important to me, raising a child with profound autism. You know, there is no little wins. How about you, Victoria?
For me, overcoming challenges, as we all know, being a mother is incredibly difficult, in and of itself. But to do it when you yourself is on the spectrum, you're on the spectrum, I think that just adds an extra cherry on top to pretty much like, if this is as difficult as it gets and you have someone on a spectrum to also follow and accomplish those goals, I think that just makes it all worthwhile. And to see my daughter grow and develop and become her own person and her own autism journey, that's very rewarding.
What was it like to learn that your child was on the autism spectrum, Tonya, and then Victoria?
So it was indeed incredibly overwhelming. And so our family indeed experienced a period of grief. So grieving what we expected the parenthood journey to be, grieving plans that we had for the lives of our children. And so it was just really overwhelming in that regard.
And can you tell people how you managed to navigate that grief? How did it get better? Because it did get better, right?
Sure, it did over time. And so what I found to be most helpful following that initial diagnosis was to allow myself to experience all of the emotion, all of the feeling, the variety of feelings that came along with learning of the child's diagnosis. So really, really allowing myself to rest in that space and then gradually begin kind of taking a stepwise approach to identifying what the next steps should be.
What was it like for you, Victoria, learning that your daughter was on the spectrum?
It was definitely overwhelming, but I was proud that I was able to get my daughter diagnosed much younger than I was. I was diagnosed at 17. Now, me personally, I didn't have a period when I grieved when she was diagnosed, but I was a little upset and felt at fault because I didn't, want my child to go through what I went through, being autistic and, feeling different, about yourself, and you don't really fit in, and just navigating through that. But I felt like if this is the road we have, then I'm the very person that can assist her with her autism journey. Me personally, I didn't accept mine until I was 24. I didn't accept my own autism until I was 24. So the main thing that I want to give my daughter is self-esteem and self-assuredness And so as she gets older, it will become more of a power tool as she navigates her own journey.
And so what advice would you give to a parent who just received their child's autism diagnosis, Victoria? It seems like you went through a fairly long period of, acceptance with your own diagnosis. So do you have any advice for parents who might be going through this?
Yes, please seek out resources that are available to you. There are support groups. Please try to reach out to the nearest support group with you, because I know for me as a parent, it was hard for me to navigate through that because I don't have a support group, with other mothers who, experienced with children on the spectrum. And the only support I had at the time was my mom, asking her, well, what was it like for you raising me? Because at the time, there was no understanding of autism. There was no understanding of autism, and there's a lot of resources are available now that was not available then. So to have a broad aspect of that support is going to be very, very helpful and valuable to you. Also, parents, please do not feel you're at fault or blame yourself. Just give your child unconditional love and they will thrive. Don't give up.
How about you, Tonya? Anything to add to this? That was pretty good advice, but.
Sure. I echo what Victoria has shared. Also, just again, reiterating the importance of allowing yourself to experience whatever emotion or feelings present as a result of learning of your child's diagnosis. Also very important during that time to equip yourself with factual and accurate information. Also, begin to engage. Again, this may overlap. You may experience some of these periods may last longer than others, but really also begin to engage in that process of discovery for your child. So now that you have this diagnosis, really understand what the diagnosis is, and most importantly, how the diagnosis of autism impacts your child.
Great advice, both of you. Thank you for sharing. So, do you celebrate your child's differences? And if so, how do you do that?
So for me, it's acknowledging what those differences are. So acknowledging what those differences are, and then being transparent with others who directly engage and support our children, what the differences are, what the strengths are, and then collaborating on how best to support and celebrate the child. So for example, with our oldest son, Tyler, we learned that as his academic programming became more consistent and more structured, he thrived in both kind of the one-to-one setting and the team-based group setting. And he enjoyed peer activities, team-based activities, and he would really, really thrive, and he would have a sense of pride and excitement. And so we really were intentional about always incorporating those types of activities into his plan.
How about you, Victoria? How have you celebrated your daughter's differences?
I celebrate, oftentimes a lot of praise and, just giving her a sense of value and self-esteem, of course. And also sometimes I may, as a mom, buy cake or ice cream or something just to celebrate those little wins. As a behavior technician, I do work with autistic children, as a career. And I do bring a little bit of that behavior therapy approach to how I teach my daughter different concepts and how to navigate the world around her, even something as simple as learning fractions and things like that at school. To give a quick example, my daughter, she was on track to potty train at 2. She would go in the potty and hit all her developmental milestones. But not too long after she had turned 2, the typical regression occurred, and she did not, she was not fully toilet trained again until she was 5. But when we finally did get her toilet trained, I did use a little bit of that behavior analyst therapy and, just encouraging and consistency and practice along with that. So I think that's very helpful in, with that routine of knowing what to expect, and it doesn't scare them, and it helps them thrive even more and feel comfortable.
And to that note, do you think your own autism diagnosis is helping you understand your daughter better?
Yes. I do keep in mind that our journeys are not going to be the same, because no two autism journeys are the same. She is level 2 moderate, so she does have some intellectual and cognitive deficits along with social deficits, whereas I just had social deficits and maybe some slight cognitive, because I was extremely clumsy as a kid. I fell and, would get bruises easily. But my main thing is I try to teach my daughter that it's okay to do it by yourself, but also ask for help if you need to. I try to give her a sense of that self-assuredness as well, like becoming aware if you are not okay. And, just ask and check in randomly, like, hey, sweetheart, are you okay? Do you need mommy? And of course, if she says no, as a parent, give yourself permission to step back so they can try it for themselves. We as parents, we tend to, want to be there so much that sometimes you don't realize you could be becoming a crutch. So I try to, as a parent, permit myself, like, okay, I don't want to do that, but let me step back and see how she, can she accomplish this on her own? And if not, what can we do to give her the tools to do so?
And how about you, Tonya? Do you think that having 2 children on the spectrum has impacted how you parent?
Oh, indeed it has. And so being the mother of autistic children has greatly impacted enhanced and influenced my appreciation of patience, presence, and environment. So I of course focus on their physical safety and their development, but also their psychological safety and development. And so I do this, I'm intentional about the way in which I engage with my children, the way they're included in our family unit, including provision of choice and autonomy, and then really being intentional about the spaces that they are in.
I have 2 more questions for you guys. And I like this question a lot because you are both very busy women. You both work, I believe, Tonya, you are a nurse, and Victoria, you are an RBT. So how do you balance your family life with your professional life, and I mean, taking care of yourself too? I feel like that's 3 separate things. Do you have any advice for other mothers out there who might be juggling all of this? Tonya?
Yes, and so I will acknowledge that it is indeed challenging, and so I try to be intentional about identifying desired outcomes with my family life, my professional life, and social interests. And so, and then kind of identifying what the what the desired outcomes are, what the end goals are, and then developing a feasible plan to achieve those. And so that plan may look like setting boundaries, being selective in what I participate in or what my family participates in, and then collaboration with others and utilization of resources and supports that are in place to help me achieve those desired outcomes and goals.
How about you, Victoria?
Well, in terms of balance, I honestly, it's very easy to me on the fact that I'm kind of always by myself. My friends tell me that the importance of self-care. I have a habit of devoting so much to my kid that I really don't have a lot of self-care. So I'm actually just now learning about that boundary that I need for self-care. Oftentimes it is hard to balance your professional life and a kid, especially a kid on the spectrum, but it's necessary because you need to give them as much support as you can, but you also don't want to overwhelm yourself, because if you're not okay, then you can't, be in a position to give it to anyone else, including your children. So with those boundaries, I have to tell myself that if I'm not okay, and I don't, implement self-care, or when I get stimulated, I just need to take a moment, then I won't be of any great use to be a support for my daughter. And in terms of balancing work and child, I will be honest, Google Calendar was my best friend in graduate school. I'm proud to say I was able to maintain an 8 average, but it was a lot of hard work, a lot of finagling, juggling, rescheduling, scheduling. It is going to be difficult, but it is certainly possible. But please, as a mother, remember, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to reach out for help, and it's okay to be overwhelmed. Just, please acknowledge that when you need someone to maybe come over and cook a meal, or to help you with your child, so that you can be okay.
Very good. You know what they say, you can't pour from an empty cup. I feel like that's the advice here. And I appreciate you sharing that, because it's difficult for mothers to ask for help. And we need to remember that it's absolutely okay to do so, especially if help is available to us. Last question for you. What's a perfect Mother's Day in your eyes, and any last words for all the mothers out there? Tonya?
Yes. And so my advice, again, every situation is different, but my advice, my recommendation is to, as a mother, have grace with yourself, whatever that looks like. Clarify. So you have the diagnosis, but clarify what that means for your family and your family unit. Identify what supports are in place and what supports are needed, and then identify resources. And you may need help, so understand that you may need help as you are identifying what's needed for yourself and your child, and utilize those resources, and know that advocacy has many faces. And so identify those school supports, those community supports, population-specific organizations, such as Autism Speaks, and really allow yourself the time to identify what is needed, and then know that it's okay if things need to change.
Amazing. Victoria, any last words? What's your perfect Mother's Day? Any last word for all the mothers out there?
Yes. For me personally, a perfect Mother's Day is, of course, to spend time with my child, but the other half is to have a little bit of me time, because, as mothers, you get wrapped up in family life, your professional life. Sometimes it is easy to forget about you. So, for me, it's try to take small vacations when it does come, to regroup, reboot, come up with fresh ideas to better assist yourself as well as your child. And to just also echo off what Tonya said, what does that look like for you and your family? And also, as a mother, please, again, have grace with yourself. Just like what Tonya said, have grace. It's definitely okay to not be okay.
Amazing. Well, I want to thank you both so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your thoughts about motherhood. I appreciate what you're doing, and I hope you have a wonderful Mother's Day. Thank you.
You as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.